All right. How's everybody doing?
All good.
Good. Okay, let's get started. Let me introduce myself. My name is Floyd Rance III. I am the co-founder of the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival. We are in our 18th year. We are going to celebrate our 18th film festival because of COVID online. It will be streamed exclusively via Facebook October 6th through the 10th this year. Next year, every year we do a film festival in August. It's the second weekend in August. Next year it's the 6th through the 14th, and that would be our 19th film festival. We also do a hybrid event here in Denver. I'm in Denver right now, Denver, Colorado. And that'll take place October 6th through the 10th as well. But because of COVID, obviously, we're not expecting a lot, but everything will be online on Facebook. So as you guys know, this is for Charm City Kings. It's a conversation to be centered around those on the ground making change through impactful initiatives that work to negate negative stereotypes of the Black community and shift the narrative. I want to introduce everybody. First is Caleb Pinkett, producer of HBO Max Charm City Kings. Mr. Will Catlett. Mr. Will Catlett, he's an actor. He plays Detective Rivers in Charm City Kings. We have Brittany Young. She's the founder and CEO of B360 Baltimore. And Mr. Rashid Shabazz, he's the Chief Marketing and Storytelling Officer of Color of Change. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Color of Conversation. So how's it going?
Yeah. All good.
Good.
Loving it.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Good. I love your beard, Will. Looks excellent. Love your hat, Rashid. You got it going on. You look phenomenal. Brittany, and you look very appropriate for California. I'm assuming you're in California.
For me? No, I'm in Baltimore.
No. Caleb, he's in California.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He looks very appropriate for California. And I'm gonna start right there. I'm gonna start with Caleb. Caleb, tell me, why do you feel this story was important to tell during this time, during the year of 2020?
Well, I didn't know how important it would be because we shot it in 2018. I had no idea 2020 was going to be what 2020 has been. And but it's fantastic. The reason why this story needed to be told and why it still needs to be told is because the main point of it is about mentorship. It's when we take care of ourselves and our own. Older Black men reaching out and sticking a hand for the younger Black men who come up and sometimes think they know more, think they know better, but need to be guided. And through guidance is how I really believe we'll be able to remedy a lot of the issues that hinder our community. I think a lot of them stem from young men in particular, and I'll speak for Black men as me being one. Without mentorship, you're wide open to do a whole lot of things because one, you think you're not of value. Two, you think nobody cares about you. And three, you don't care about yourself. And when somebody shows you that they care about you, it kind of makes you care more about yourself. It's similar to what Mike Tyson said about Cus D'Amato. He said that Cus actually cared about him and it made him say, dang, maybe I am of value, because Mike said he didn't think he had any value. So just that kind of thing I think is so important, and it's not just in this movie, but it's also in our communities, period. I think mentorship is a huge piece that is missing that we really need to use, and I think the film delivers that message in an organic way.
Okay, well said. Real quick, just elaborate on the mentors you've had in your life.
Oh, wow. I've been blessed to have a few. My daughter's godfather, Daryl Foster, was a mentor to me physically, helped me get in the best shape of my life, taught me the discipline that's needed, that it's not just about looking good physically, it's what it does to your mind and how it trains you. And it also builds self-confidence to where you believe in yourself. When you endure through things that you don't think you can do, and you accomplish it, it gives you a real sense of power and pride in yourself that you can accomplish things. So that goes for physicality, mentality, love lives, business, everything. Like you can endure. And then Will, my brother-in-law Will, has been a huge mentor in my life, there to guide me through a lot of things, teach me a lot of things, and also show me how to do the things, and then wise enough to back up and let me do it myself. So when I bump my head and make mistakes, he says, see, I told you about that, but the only way to learn is to actually do. And then also James Lassiter, who is Will's partner at Overbrook, has been a major mentor for me in my life as well, specifically on the business side of what it takes to run a company and how you handle business in this industry, being Black people and trying to take ownership over our stories and our business and our lives, because even with as much success as my brother-in-law has had in the film industry, he doesn't own his stuff. And, you know, like that's like a big thing. But what's great about it is you can't do any Will Smith movies without Will Smith. Try it. They didn't work. You see what I'm saying? So it's like he does own them, even though he doesn't. But it's just learning all of the different ins and outs of what it takes to make it in a business. And I wouldn't have been able to do this without the 3 mentors in my life.
Dynamite. Now, are you from Baltimore?
No, sir. I was born in Fullerton, California. I just had to spend half my life in Baltimore. So my father, born and raised in Baltimore. My family, the Pinketts, are from Salisbury, Maryland. And I had to come out every summer and every Christmas for Baltimore as a kid. So I spent basically half my life in Baltimore, just growing up. So I guess I'm an honorary Baltimorean.
I can echo that. I spent a couple summers in Baltimore. My cousins were on Harlem Avenue and over on Rutland Avenue near
there we go.
So this movie was a little sentimental for me as well. So talk to me real quick about the Baltimore as a backdrop for Charm City Kings.
There was no other backdrop that it could have been done. The studio is so funny. Sony, they were like, can we do this in Atlanta? I said, no. Can we do it in Toronto? No. Okay, can we do it I said, it can't be any other city except Baltimore. And they were like, from the business side, they were like, the city's not giving us any, they're not giving us any tax incentive. Like, they're not, like, you're losing money going to Baltimore. I said, there is no movie without it, Baltimore. I said, you couldn't have shot Boys in the Hood in Texas. Are you crazy? Like LA is the character in the movie, and Baltimore is the same thing for this. Shooting this outside of Baltimore, even if the audience didn't know, you would feel it. And I think it's one of the reasons that people are feeling the movie the way that they do is because it's so authentic, it's so real, and anybody that's been to that city knows that's Baltimore. They're not faking none of that.
Especially when you go down those little back alleys and whatnot.
That's right.
And those marble steps. That's Baltimore.
That's right.
You know. So one of the things that really jumps out at me when I hear Baltimore is the accent. And now the young man got it. I don't know if he's from Baltimore, but he got it. No. I was like, oh, he's not. He got it. Well, did you try to tackle that?
Well, I'm from the DMV. So,
oh, you're from the DMV. Okay, good deal.
And my approach with Rivers was, you know, he worked in Baltimore, but he necessarily didn't have to be totally from Baltimore. He could have been from the metropolitan area. So certain words like yo or how they would say it, I would emulate that. But I felt like my own accent would be the most authentic to him.
Okay. So what attracted you to this role of Detective Rivers, and what objectives did you have that you wanted to get across to the audience?
Well, what attracted me to the role was, one, the mentorship and the possibility of being a mirror to the police force as a young African-American cop, and to give cops an alternative of how they approach when they possibly pull people over, or when they think about that young Black kid. I knew that I was also going to be a father figure to kids that are going to watch this movie that may not have a father figure. So they can look at not only myself, they can also look at Blacks. And it's like they have 2 roles to choose, not judging any one of the characters, but, you know, to have that prominent figure in the movie to be like a father figure to Mouse, I thought was very important. And that's what kind of got my gears turning when I thought about doing the role.
And what were you trying to get across to the audience? Like, what were the takeaways for you that you want the audience to have? Any nuggets that you wanted to share?
Yeah, I don't. When I'm working, I don't think about that, because then now I'm trying to force you to feel something. You know, my job is to be a blank canvas. So when I looked at Rivers, I know if I was authentic to the relationship with Mouse, then whatever will come across will be what is needed to be. For instance, meaning like when we are in the car and I tell him, I'll lock your little ass up, you know, when I'm telling him that, you let him know that it's not a game. Just because I'm trying to help you and I'm befriending you, don't forget that, you know what I'm saying? If you don't do right, you can go another route. And my mom will always tell me, a man's voice carry and a woman's doesn't. And she's not negating her own power. It's just something about when a man checks another man that it's like your DNA gets in alignment. And I knew that, you know, playing the role of Rivers and also being a mirror to other people, that will reflect.
I'm guessing you're from the D, as in DC. More
the DMV. Yeah, Alexandria, Virginia. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I can hear the DC accent a little bit. So tell me, this is a coming of age story. How does Charm City differ from other coming of age stories?
I think that's Caleb. You know, this is this baby right here. I mean, it's in his blood. You know, just being on set with Caleb.
He's gonna pass it to you, Caleb. So
yeah. Because you know,
how does Charm City differ from other coming of age stories, in your opinion?
I think the biggest difference besides the world that you're getting for the first time to see this sort of world, I think the major difference is it really focuses on the hope of mentorship for these kids, because the story is similar. It's not something we haven't seen. It's not nothing that we haven't experienced. You know, even in Stand By Me, which is a classic coming of age story, you get friends and, you know, and the thing and the back and forth and all that, and the tragedy strikes and all of that. You get that. But the difference about this one is that it really focuses on the power of mentorship. The fact that at the end of our movie, 4 scenes prior, that same kid had a gun in his hand. 4 scenes later, that kid has a stethoscope around his neck and is wearing doctor scrubs. And that's through mentorship, period. It's from Rivers and Blacks. Even though they didn't get along, what they were able to do with Mouse saved his life. And so I really believe that is the difference of this movie, is that it dives into the hope of, listen, if we can reach out to these kids, if somebody cares, these kids, instead of being a killer, can be a doctor. And I just think it's so important and it's vital. And that would, to me, that's the biggest difference that I would say with this film that I've seen in other coming of age stories, is the real push for Black mentorship to Black young men, specifically.
He's also being mentored by the veterinarian at the clinic there. Like, she's unnoticed, but she's really, I mean, I guess I don't know if it was taken out or anything, but she's really kind of like key into keeping him grounded in the veterinarian practice.
1000%. She was, and it's so funny you mentioned that, because we cut a lot of her scenes out. So she was definitely more of a mentor to him in the prior iterations of the film, and we cut the scenes out. We actually shot them. We just cut them out because the movie was too long, so we had to get rid of stuff, and unfortunately it was a lot of those scenes. But it's good that you picked that up, because she was that for him in a lot of different ways, because it's the only white person he ever really deals with. There's nobody white in the movie except for her, and then one cop. You know what I mean? And that's what it's like in Baltimore. Like, for the most part, if you stay where we were shooting, Lafayette and Monroe, you'd be hard pressed to see somebody white. And if you do, they rolling with us. They just like us, meaning you're like seeing another Black person. They talk like us, walk like us, dress like us, everything. It's not that big of a difference. So the veterinarian, she lived in White Marsh. You know what I mean? Like, she's over there. It's completely different. So that was an important aspect as well.
Okay, good deal. So Brittany, speak about yourself, your journey, and B360. Let the audience know what B360 Baltimore is all about.
Yep. So I'm Brittany. I'm the founder and CEO. Born and raised, never leaving Baltimore. It gives me the most strength, the most passion, the most comfort. I think my motto is, if you can make it in Baltimore, you can make it anywhere, because we teach people how to deal with us and handle us. And Baltimore is a place that we often don't get as many resources. So as little Black kids in the city, we learn how to make a way. And people call that innovation now. We just call it survival, because we just need to figure out things for ourselves. And that's how I really approach B360. Our summers in Baltimore, the sound is dirt bikes. It's that mat noise. I can smell the gasoline. I'm thinking about my experience in the park, and I was watching dirt bike riders do tricks, but also teaching other like little kids like me, how do you like repair the bikes? How do you fix them? So that mentorship aspect. I wanted to be like Bill, not a science guy, or the next big dirt bike rider. I fell too many times, so dirt bike riding was not my thing, but I always watched. And watching Bill, I like to make stuff explode, but I never had a teacher who like listened to me until I was in like the 3rd grade. And she really like heard me talking about my explosions, making stink bombs. I had a science kit. And what she did was she put me in a program with high school students. And that's who I got to become for our students. B360, we change perceptions of engineers and dirt bike riders. So holding on to the fact that most riders start as little kids, knowing everything about a dirt bike. If you meet any of our students, they can tell you things I don't know. And what I see is when people pop a wheelie, so when you see a dirt bike go at 12 o'clock, that's a physics equation. When people are fixing and repairing their bikes, that's mechanics, that's mechanical engineering. And as Baltimore, you know, if we're saying we have all these STEM careers and tech jobs in the city, why don't we also create pathways to get people who look like us to those jobs and careers? And then the opposite end was following Freddie Gray. The city also created like a dirt bike police task force. So really want the city to think about nonviolent offenses should result in programming, mentorship, and ways to grow the voice in the culture, not ways to just arrest people and cause more turmoil in our communities. And that's what B360 was built on. Taking the love of dirt bikes that people have, training actual dirt bike riders to hire and to work with our younger students. So far, it's been 7,000. We've been able to hire more than 40 dirt bike riders. And what we're doing is we're shifting the culture out of traffic and into programming, but also creating workforce and direct services to our community with people who look like me.
Oh, that's excellent. So give me an example of what one of the young men who've come through the program, what he or she is doing right now currently.
Yeah, that's a good question. So one is Mike. So Mike, I met him when he was 17. He was just graduating from high school. He wasn't really sure what he wanted to do. I had a presentation talking about B360. He heard me and was like, this lady is crazy. But he took a risk on me and wanted to like learn more. So the first thing we did was I just asked him to like put a dirt bike together. It took him maybe 3.5 days to put some pieces together with no formal training or experience. And I was just watching, you know, so as he was talking me through what he was doing, I was translating on my other ear. It's like, this is the engineering side of it. And then we came back together and we helped create our curriculum. Since then, he's gone on to do like manufacturing, product development, and also production. So he's worked at a lot of like great companies. Right now, he's in the Dominican Republic, actually about to like do some filming. Hopefully we'll be doing some more events. And with Mike, we've been able to recruit more dirt bike riders. So he has his group of students that work directly under him, but two, he's like a young professional coming up in the world of like motorsports, coming into manufacturing and being a teacher all at the same time. And Mike now is only 21. So I would say he's like, you know, a good translation of when you listen to youth and young adults, this is what it can become. And his experience, lived and learned, is how we built our programming. And then students under him, like Deron, have been riding since they were like 6 and 7. Deron met Mike when he was 12 in our programming. And Deron now also wants to follow in Mike's footsteps of going into manufacturing, or it may change to mechanical engineering. And then Deron has a little brother, and Deron's little brother, who was in the 1st grade, has the same experiences of wanting to be just like Deron. And now I'm thinking about, yeah, we can ride dirt bikes and we can go into these professions and these careers and keep like reshaping the community and keep reshaping what engineering and STEM and what like production looks like from Black people and telling our stories.
Okay, so let me ask you, and any of y'all can jump in on this. So if put dirt bike in order, so would it be like in Baltimore, would it be like basketball, football, dirt bike, or would it be dirt bike first, which one, how would it go?
Dirt bikes
And,
is at the top.
yeah, in Baltimore, there's no question. Dirt bikes, number one.
Dirt bikes is first?
Absolutely.
Is that
no
right?
question.
Okay.
Because everybody can't play basketball, but everybody can ride a bike. Like
Or
they
try
can all
to.
learn.
They'll try to, like she said.
Try to. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
I mean, I've been watching some videos and stuff, and I mean, obviously, when you get to do a 12 o'clock and stand on and do, I mean, all that is great, but I think you got to know that he fell down a few times before he got to stand up on the bike and do that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of like football. Like some guys have said, you know, once they take a really hard hit, it's like, that's it for me. I'm done. I'm done with this. They'll try something else. And, you know, it's not for me. And I think for the people we see standing on the bikes, then that's for them, you know. And I was also thinking that, like, I can see how young men would want to do dirt bikes because it has everything that you would want. I mean, it has speed, adrenaline. You're doing tricks. I mean, you're going to gravitate towards whatever it is you see. So, like he said, you know, everybody can't play basketball, and you got to get started really early to be able to hang out with a lot of the good guys. And that is I guess, a viable option for you to go out in the streets, especially in Baltimore, and start trying to ride a bike. But this is not just exclusive to Baltimore. I mean, this is all over Philly, New York.
Yeah.
I've been on the highway many times and seen people ride by on 12 o'clock and whatnot. So, Brittany, talk to us about some of your mentors. And are you an engineer?
Yeah. I used to be an engineer, a teacher, and a college professor. So, yeah.
Right, you at Baltimore Community College, right?
Yes. Yep. So,
what school did you go to?
What you said was school?
Yeah.
UMBC, University of Maryland.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So talk to us about your mentors.
Yeah, one of my first mentors, you know, outside of my mom, I think I just come from a lineage of Black women who don't really tolerate too much mess. If you met my grandmother Lula, people did not play with her in the best way, and she taught me very early on to always assert my voice, even in a male-dominated world and space. My first mentor, though, outside of my family, was my teacher in 3rd grade, Miss Taylor. So she was the first Black woman teacher and the first Black teacher I ever had. And she really just listened to me. So I was the kid that always had my teacher, like my desk next to the principal's office, and got kicked out because I was doing all these experiments and I was bored. What she heard and saw was a little girl that just needed someone to focus on her. And she created a STEM class and a STEM program for me. And then once I got into STEM, there aren't many people that look like me either. And I started really young at 19. So, of course, you know, my 2 stood out. I'm the only Black woman. And it wasn't like the best place to be. But what I remembered was eventually I had a boss, and she was the first Black woman, like, senior vice president I had ever met. And that wasn't until I was maybe in my mid-20s. So I was in engineering for like 5 years of never seeing anyone that looked like me. And what she did was make sure I was accountable, showed me that as Black people, we can rise to senior level positions. And she also expected like excellence out of me, not perfection, but really was on me about not just my grades, but how I was like growing in this space. And then my most recent is my mentor, Dr. Charles Johnson Bay. He's the first senior vice president of Booz Allen Hamilton. So a Black man, we're a generation apart, but we've also shared similar life experiences, from going to the same middle school, to the same high school, and then our experiences in STEM. Whereas a Black man, he focused that back down on me and my generation to make sure we felt more heard. But you know, like sometimes like sexism is a thing too. So also just making sure he uses his voice to help us grow in our programming, and definitely has been an asset in business, because in spaces I can't exist, he can be there, and people, while they may not listen to me immediately, they'll listen to him, and then he'll lend his like privilege to me as Brittany and B360.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Rashid, how are you?
I'm fine. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. Now, I know I met Rashad, I think. Who went to Howard? Was it Rashad?
Well, I took a course at Howard with Haile Garima.
Okay.
So
did we meet at Sundance? Is that where we met?
Well, I know both you and Stephanie from the Martha's Vineyard, because we've supported the project in the past. So
right.
Congratulations on the 18 years.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. But I did meet you before, though.
Yes, yes.
But I think we originally met in Utah at Sundance. So anyway, so speak to us about yourself, your journey, and the work that you and Color Change are doing.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Caleb, on the production of Charm City Kings.
Thank you, brother.
Enjoyed the film, and Will, great performance. You know, I'm originally from New York, but I grew up in the DMV as well, so I have some affinity there. I am a child of individuals who I was fortunate to have my father in my life, my mother, and I had the opportunity to, you know, just grow up in a home where Black culture and Black people was centered and loved. And that's what I have for my people, just a lot of love, you know, and I believe that stories and content are the ways in which we celebrate ourselves, but also hold dear to our history and who we are as a people. And so I think I come from that lineage, and I try to bring that into the work that I do at Color Change. For those who don't know, Color Change is the largest online racial justice organization in the country. We launch campaigns every day on behalf of Black people to hold both government, media, any corporation accountable that's doing us harm. And so we want to make sure that Black people have justice, and we fight for that every day through our campaigns, our petitions, and our organizing. And the way that this relates to us, this particular film, is because Corinne Gaines, when we think about Corinne Gaines, or we think about Freddie Gray, all those individuals who've been impacted, we think about the ways in the role that police play in that. And Will, I appreciate what you said about the role that, you know, when I watch your character and I looked at Rivers, you know, I'm sure all of us are always conflicted. Like, you want to not like the police, right? You want to not really, because of what they're doing in our community. But what you did such a good job in this production and your performance was, it was hard not to see that there's a role for engagement as the mentor, and there's a role that police can have. And what I appreciate what you said was specifically the way that police can actually watch this and see how they should behave, how they should engage. And I thought that was real powerful, because as I'm watching it as a viewer, obviously I'm not an officer, but you know, that's kind of like what came to mind. So at Color Change, we work on these issues day in and day out. Obviously, we work to hold accountable those individuals who create injustice for us. And so I called the name of Breonna Taylor. You know, we saw what went down, and we call out the name of all those individuals: George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, others. And so that's what we do. And my job is I lead our brand, our marketing, our storytelling. I work inside of the industry in Hollywood to create opportunities such as what you've done, Floyd, and what you and Stephanie are doing to create platforms for us to tell our stories, but then also go inside the industry and ensure that the Calebs, the Wills, if they need us to come in and hold accountable a studio that's not allowing them to do what they need to do, we call them out and we work with them and make sure that those assets and build power for Black people inside the industry. And so we launched an initiative recently with Michael B. Jordan called changehollywood.org, and you could check that out. But that's kind of like an initial frame of who I am and the work that I do.
Okay, so talk to us about some of the mentors that you've had in your past.
Well, first of all, you know, I have to shout out my father. You know, like sometimes, you know, we often hear stories of, you know, Black men don't have fathers in their lives. One thing I'll say is Black men, we always, even we don't have fathers, we find those father figures, as we saw in this film, right? And, you know, when there's an absentee person, you look for that. But I was fortunate to have my father, and my father, I would say, is a mentor. I also see my peers as mentors. You know, sometimes we look at older individuals, but I have to say, you know, the other thing that stood out in the film was this whole concept about, like, you know, Blacks is like, yo, look out who you hang out with. You know, my mother used to say that to me, you know, she'd be like, why are you hanging with that dude over there? And I'd be like, you know, and friendship is a weird thing, because sometimes you hang with people, as the film shows, that may not be right for you. But I was fortunate to have, and I still have, a lot of mentors in my life, brothers in my life that I consider friends who are brothers. And they're mentors, you know. Bradford Young, he's a cinematographer. He's my best friend. You know, he went to Howard. That's where we met. And I look at the way he leads his life and how he leads the way in which he does his work. And that inspires me. And that type of mentorship comes through. And most importantly, I would say, outside my friendships, is Hakeem Abuti. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with him, but he's the founder of Third World Press. It's the oldest Black publishing company in the country. And I had the opportunity to intern with him. He's continued to be a resource and a mentor in my life. And if you can imagine a Black-owned press putting out books like the ISIS Papers or all those type of books that are out there, you know, it showed me that we have to control our narrative by controlling our own institutions and controlling our own businesses. And that's what I'm committed to. When I see Black people, it's great to see Brittany leading her own organization, the work, and Caleb has a production. All those things are important because you have to be the one to green light. You have to be the one to say, okay, I'm going to make this. And Caleb to be able to say, I'm doing this in Baltimore. I ain't doing this in Atlanta. I ain't doing this in Toronto. I'm doing this in Baltimore. That because he has some weight behind him. And I think that's important for us to have. And so that's the mentorship I have. That's the lineage I come from. It's a Hakeem Al-Buti, Haile Garima, you know, Sankofa, that type of lineage out of Howard is really powerful for me. Though I have to say, I love the Bisons, but I did not get the opportunity to graduate from Howard. I graduated undergrad from George Mason University.
That's okay. That's okay. Now, did you want to...
Shout out to my Bison friends out there.
Yeah, I'm a Bison myself. Did you want to be a filmmaker at one point?
I did, but Haile Garima reminded me that you gotta have a lot of chops to be a filmmaker. Not only my writing skills weren't the best, let's just say that, but I was a little bit more analytical, theoretical than the average probably screenwriter. So he encouraged me to like take my advocacy in one direction. I actually followed, like I said, the path of my mentor, Hakeem Al-Buti, in committing to building Black institutions and why I'm at Color of Change and supporting the work in another way. So, you know, I work with filmmakers all the time though, which is a privilege.
Have you considered, do you still have a little itch in you to be a filmmaker, or is it completely gone?
I love documentaries. You know, I love documentaries and I love stories about people. I don't try to pretend that I can do something that I feel like, you know, there's a lot of talented people doing. What I do look for are opportunities to help create platforms for them, you know, resources for them. So my previous life before Color Change, I was a funder, providing resources. So I funded a lot actually of projects in Baltimore when I worked at the Open Society Foundations, and funded a large initiative around Black men and boys called a Campaign for Black Men and Boys, and funded programs like this, you know, films like this. And it's, you know, if the initiative was still here and I was still there, we will be partnering with you, Caleb, to elevate this as a tool around mentorship. And so, you know, I wish those initiatives, unfortunately, with Black men and the Black says at one point, do you really care about Black boys? And I think this country continues to have that love-hate relationship. We're on the courts, we're performing, you love us, but there's no commitment long-term for Black men and boys and Black girls and women. And so the work that I did at the foundation was to support both that and the start of President Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative. And so I'm fortunate to be part of those, the brain trust to bring those things together.
Okay, good deal. Hey, Will, there was a lot of scenes that you had that I really enjoyed. I think the one towards the end where the young man, I guess he basically cusses you out and walks away. I thought that was a really powerful scene. I thought you guys had some really great chemistry. Tell me, how was this your first time being a detective, and how was it working with, I guess, youth actors, young actors?
Well, working with youth actors, they don't have any, you know, insecurities. They just raw and authentic. You know what I mean? So I always say this about Jahi, because he's such a superstar, is that he's never on the page, he's in the scene. And so it reminds you you got to release all that you've learned and just be in the moment. And that's what was great too about just being in Baltimore, is because you didn't have to play a police officer. You know what I mean? You feel the tension of the city by just being there. I remember going on my ride along just to get, you know, more information from the cops that actually work the beat in the city. And we go see a dead body at 10 a.m. in the morning. The Jordans is still on the feet. You know, the body is still warm, you know, and I'm like, wow, it's real out here, you know. And we going down North Ave and you seeing the city popping, you know, 9 in the morning, you know. So I took all that into the account of just be authentic to the city. And allow everything to just absorb and just be a sponge. And then I didn't have to worry about it. I've been acting a long time, so I didn't have to worry about that. It's just getting that true authenticity of being a cop, you know, and not playing a cop. You know what I'm saying? Some people play cops. It's like they're people, but they got that badge on. And sometimes it's almost like you go home, you take off the superhero. And then when you put the superhero on, when you go out in the street, you're a different person. And I saw that too in some of the interactions with the cops when they would talk to people outside. I'm like, you wouldn't really act like that at home. This is a whole nother person. So there is a switch. And sometimes I think cops get lost in that switch. They don't know how to turn it off. You know what I'm saying? And so, little things like that I paid attention to. And I remember 2 guys knocking on somebody's door to go into their house one morning. We was coming in the set. I was paying attention to all that, looking at their face. Are they scared to go in? Do they really want to be out there? How does it feel? And then sometimes I'm in scenes where I'm sitting on a corner and I see people come by. They looking at me like, you a real cop. I'm like, I ain't got no heat on me, really. I'm like, oh man, where the security at? Caleb got me out here. But you do everything. And I think, when I working with Jaheed in that scene, that's what I want people to take away. I want them to feel the city. I want them to feel the moment. And I don't want people to watch people doing great acting. I want them to see Rivers and to see Miles and know that's a real relationship. Like, I really felt him push me on my chest. Like, yo, I really want to slam you on this car right now. But I also feel that I'm losing this young man to the streets. And I got to do whatever I can do to try to get him back.
All right, good deal. I thought that there was a moment where I thought your character and the mom maybe had something in the past, or I don't know, maybe that was cut out, Caleb. I don't know. I felt some chemistry. I said, okay, well, they obviously feeling him. Maybe something happened with one of them, between them. Was any of that left out, Caleb?
No. That was never. No,
okay.
we never.
Never an option.
We never. No. That's just Will and Tiana. That's just their chemistry.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened between action and cut. You know what I'm saying? I like. Will's a happily married man. He ain't doing nothing like that.
Well, I mean, in the movie, she didn't have a guy, right? She didn't have a guy.
No, she didn't. She was a single mother. Absolutely.
Single mother. And I think at that time, he hadn't divulged the relationship that he had, because he was saying that he had mentored him, and he knows everything about dogs or animals and that. He hadn't said that yet, so I assumed that maybe this was an old flame or something like that. And because she was kind of looking at him like, yeah, all right, I see you, yeah, you still doing that same old. So I don't know. That's what I thought. But I thought there was some chemistry there, and I thought it was good. One of the lines I really liked.
I think it's always something in the air. You know what I'm saying? If you see a stand-up man going to work, although he may be a cop, and he's looking after your young man, there's a thought there on both sides. You know what I mean? Even if it's not acted upon, it's there.
Yeah, no doubt. One of my favorite lines was when you
imagine that.
He just said he saw a dead body at 9 in the morning.
Listen.
Y'all want me to be a thing?
Listen, the very first. Oh no. The very first day so there's a scene in the movie where you see the midnight clique pull up in front of the liquor store, and they see Swear to God and Lamont in the street cleaning windows. And Chino says, hey, you trying to make some money? Come over here, right? Cool. It's a really simple scene. So, but we have to shoot that. So the director, Angel, tells Chino and Queen, you know what? Start around the corner and pull into the shot. So that just means like drive into it, right? They're like, cool. So they go around the corner, action. Nothing happens.
Right.
Action. Nothing happens. We're like, what the? And then you hear, and here they come, right? And Angel's like, hey, come on, you guys. When I say action, I need you to come. Chino ain't even listen. He drives right past Angel, comes up to me. Hey, some niggas back there try to rob us, yo. They back there with 2 guns and ski masks. I ain't going back over there. Y'all need to figure this out.
I believe
I'm
it.
like, what?
I
So
believe
I send security over there, and sure enough, security says, "Yes, sir, Mr. Pinkett. There's 2 armed assailants, ski mask and guns." And they told them, I'm sorry, my phone. They told the people. They said, hey, We just trying to eat. Y'all out here shooting this movie, yo. We needed something.
Right.
I'm like, yo, like that was the first day we was gonna get robbed. And they're like, yo, man, it's just chalk it up to the game. Y'all out here, y'all, I'm sure y'all can get another one. You making a movie, run that.
Wow.
We need that around here. So that was part of the difficulty. I had so when you make a movie, unions are extremely powerful. They can shut you down. So if somebody on your set says they feel unsafe and they call out a union rep, he'll come to set and shut everything down. Stuff like that was happening where people, I had crew members that were terrified. There's a few Negroes over there. They look a little testy. I don't feel safe.
Oh, wow.
Can you go do what you guys do and make them stop? You know what I mean? Like, it was a lot. It was a lot because as much as I love my people and I love our city and I love doing what we were able to do for the city, there's still elements of it where it's like, hey man, listen, you come around here, you need to run that. I mean, even light stuff where we're shooting in a neighborhood and we tell the people, hey, you know, when we shoot, can you please stay in the house? Hell no, I ain't staying in no house. You gonna give me some money?
Yeah.
You gonna give me some money? Or I'm walking outside. And they walk right into our shot. I'd be like, Angel, just make it look like it's real. Yeah. Just leave it alone. Let them do it because they ain't listening. Like there was a lot of, I don't care. Yeah. I ain't in the movie. So I don't care what you doing. And where your sister at? How come Jada ain't here? You know what I'm saying?
That would have helped.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna keep it 100. Like that's what it was. But it was an honor and a pleasure to be there. There was so much love because we got so much protection. Because what started happening was people started seeing we were getting flack from other people, and then other people in the neighborhood be like, "Yo, hey, calm that down. Don't you see they out here trying to do something for the city? Like, damn, that's why don't nobody come here." Because of y'all. Like, you know, we had the own people in their own neighborhood were helping protect and defend what we were trying to do. Because they were like, come on, man, give these guys a break. Yeah. But yeah, it was a little rough. It definitely was. Yeah. But I gotta say real quick, because I heard the police, the dirt bike task force mentioned, and that is a very real thing. And I can definitely say, if it was not for them, we would not have been able to make the movie because they allowed us to allow the riders to ride dirt bikes. Because I had to go and speak to Officer Warren, who's the head of it. And the answer was no, right up to the last moment. And they allowed it. And let me just say, a month before shooting, those cops were looking for every single one of those riders that were in my movie to arrest them, take their bikes, do whatever. And after we got the green light to shoot the movie in Baltimore and be able to have them ride, those same cops were escorting those same people to and from set while riding dirt bikes. Okay. The police are saying, you need to stop, hold on, let Willie Wayne and his crew come through. Okay. Like that. They were like, yo, man, I don't know what you did, but wow. Because they told me it would never happen. Willie Wayne told me, when I told him, I said, I need your help to make this movie. He said, I'll help you with whatever you need. He said, but it ain't gonna happen. He said, I promise you they ain't gonna let you shoot that here. He said, it'll never happen. And then when I called him and said it was on, he was like, I can't believe you were able to do that. Like, what did you promise them? I said, nothing. Oh, I told them this. I said, I'm not gonna demonize the police. I said, that's not, because they were like, we're not gonna support you guys if you're demonizing us. I said, I'm not. There's no need to. I said, one of the main mentors in the movie is a cop, and he's a good guy. So, and they saw that. They loved Will's portrayal of the police. Shoot, we even put one of the commissioner's sons in the movie. He's in the beginning of the movie in the cop car. He gave him a line and everything.
He loved
it. Yes, sir. So it was overall a great experience, but not without issue. That's just what happens. When you go in certain areas, you're gonna have issue. John Singleton said the Bloods shot up the set, Boys in the Hood, while they was out shooting in the jungles. They shot it up, the scene at the Crenshaw cruising scene where they shoot and you see everybody duck. John said that was actually real. That was real. That's why everybody panicked like that, because the Blood shot up the set. So that's just what happens. You go in certain areas, you go in certain things. That's just what it is. So we had to take the good with the bad, but there was definitely way more good than there was bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Brittany, a lot of love in the city. You know, I felt that just being in the city. You know, there's a lot of love in Baltimore, and you can feel it.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's definitely a family, and you can, if you find the right groups, you can, you know, I hear that there's a lot of gentrification going on in Baltimore. Is that true, Brittany?
It is. Yeah, I think, and specifically with like North Avenue, like when people learn the history of Baltimore, North Avenue was middle class Black families, and that's like where all the filming happened. And what we see on North Avenue now is the remnants of like the crack and opioid epidemic, and like a city within a city that never got a chance to recover. So North Avenue stretches from West Baltimore to East Baltimore, and in certain parts of North Avenue, there's like, you know, white people for the first time. There's like construction, there's bike lanes. And with gentrification, that means more Black families get pushed out. And in a Black city, we often keep asking, like, what's left for us, right? Especially like with dirt bikes. You know, one of B360's big pushes is if the city is going to basically re-gut it and all that kind of stuff, and we're bringing, you know, a bigger economy, is why don't we have a space for riders yet? So that's one of our big things, is making sure even in the wake of gentrification, even in the wake of the city being redone and the history that it's had, we need to have ownership of stuff for Black people. And a dirt bike space will be the perfect example of how, as a community, as a culture, we have something that's the remnants for us and not just what's left over from a lost generation in crack and opioids.
Are the dirt bikers, the dirt bike riders, are they trying to, I know I got the tricks part, I know that part, and the pavement part, but are they trying to get into racing and things of that nature, or is it just, I just want to do the street stuff?
No, it's so as B360, we've actually started creating events. So we did at least 4. We did one in Baltimore last year. Kind of like what Caleb is describing. The city can work on your behalf or work against you. And so I just stopped asking. And so instead, what we did was get larger partners. So like expanding our voice and our brand. And that's why I was really excited about this movie, because I know that as a person in Baltimore, my voice has no value a lot of times. I can be on TED, I can be in Forbes, none of that matters. But if a group that's a large entity comes from outside of Baltimore, like with Caleb with this movie, you know, they'll be able to do things that we can't do. And that's really what we've been trying to do, is like just bring more large bodies to support our work. Because a lot of riders do want to be on ESPN in the same way the X Games are. A lot of like little kids look forward to growing up one day to be motocross or their own style of athletics. But right now it's not a direct pathway, because in our city, we can't even practice. You know, we have a luxury that when we first started, we worked directly with the police commissioner. I have a good relationship with city council, all of the mayors we've had as well. So we get around a lot of like the policy issues and having spaces for riding and doing events. But at the same time, as long as I wait on the city, I'll be in the same space forever, which is we won't have anything.
Okay. Rashid, how do we give a Black youth space to explore their passions and dreams while protecting them at the same time?
Wow. I think the first thing I wanted to kind of hit on something Caleb was saying, but then Will as well, about the city and how much love, once you get through all of that, how much love you get. I actually had an opportunity to work on a project with my brother, Common, another namesake, Lonnie, you know, Rashid Lynn. And he did a project called Black America Again. And my wife performed in that, like the longer version video that my brother Bradford Young, cinematographer, worked on. And it was nothing but love. But the whole purpose of that was to bring healing into the community around Freddie Gray, to really create that space. And so one of the questions I was thinking about, to that point around how do you engage Black youth, how do you create space for them? I felt like the film, Caleb, it seemed like despite some of the things that were happening around you, the community, as Will was saying, and what you said too, there was so much love, and that there was a rallying around you as well, to Brittany's point about needing to bring outside folks in, but then recognizing that, you know, there's only narratives that we already see about Baltimore from The Wire and everything else, that this is a continuation of that, but it was also like a break from it too, because you had a chance to see themselves, the young men, speak for themselves. And I think, to answer your question, Floyd, I think creating spaces for us to tell our own stories, listening to those young men. I used to do a lot of youth development with brothers in the DMV area when they used to come home from Logan or wherever. And they would, you know, before they transitioned out, we would do workshops with them. And always question was like, you know, how you, almost like blacks, like, what are you going to do not to get back here, right? And I never wanted to lie to them and say, you just put on a suit and tie, everything's going to be good. Because that's just not the reality for black men, right, and boys. But what I did say is that if you work towards who you are and who you're true, and we create the spaces, because ultimately, I don't like to put the onus just on the individuals. And that's the work we do at Color Change. We put the onus back on the systems. You know, how's the education system feeling them? How's the city feeling them? How's all these other systems feeling them? And to Will's point, you know, the fact that the police is an institution, right? They could make a decision and be like, how do I engage differently to create more opportunities? And I think like mentorship programs are creating spaces. And I'm glad Caleb is so clear about this needs to be a space for mentorship, that I think that's important, because unless you make that statement, people could take so much away from the film. Even though it's clear that the relationship between, you know, Mouse and Blacks and Mouse and Rivers is so clear, the fact that you're out here saying like, this is about mentorship and who is your mentors, I think is so important. So I think mentorship programs, but I also think the systems have to be held accountable. You know, I think that, you know, that's the work we do. And I'm glad Brittany's doing the work she's doing, but you know, we need more resources to these organizations and groups, and not a divestment from them. And so the more we can get resources to groups and organizations that are creating, is challenging the way the system currently is, I think is great. And I think for Black boys particularly, the education systems, the health systems, they just ignore us. And we need opportunities to create ways for them to be both celebrated and heard. And so I think that's what you do. You try to work on building those systems and revamping those systems. And the last thing I'll say is we launched a project called Normalizing Injustice, looking at the ways that police officers are portrayed, and not just police, but everyone inside law shows and shows like Law and Order. Mm-hmm. And the report actually was a catalyst to a lot of conversation within the industry. And I think one of the things we're realizing, like I'm glad Caleb's working on this, I'm glad Will as well, is that so often the people writing these scripts are white people. The people like creating these stories are not us. And I think when we're in the writers' rooms, when we're the showrunners, when we're making the decisions, the product just comes out differently. Even listening to Will say, you know, I was just being natural. I wasn't trying to perform being a police. I was just being who I thought that was, and just let that emerge. And I think like we just bring ourselves in so much. I think when Black people are involved in the product, how true stories can get heard and celebrated and reached. So I think making sure young people see this film, and then making sure that we create spaces for them. But the job of Color Change is to hold accountable the systems that create this condition for us anyway. And so I think we got to get to the root of the problem. And it's not going to, we could save all the mouses in the world, but until we change the system, there's going to be always another Freddie Gray. And so that's what we're working towards every day. And I think, you know, this film could help do that, help that conversation along.
Okay. Well, and let me ask you, Rashid, what was your, we're talking about basically these kids are young men at this time, and they have they're gravitating towards something, a passion. What was your dirt bike when you were around that age?
I didn't have a dirt bike. I had a BMX, a mongoose, and you know, I used to you know what I'm talking about. And I used to pop my wheelies, and you know, there were some dirt hills I would find and try to, you know, pedal, and I crashed. I don't know how Mouse got up from that crash in the film, but that's real. And you know, I love sports, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I was out there with my friends playing basketball and stuff. I won't say I was a pro athlete, but growing up was track. Track was my thing, you know, running, you know, cross country, running track, sprints, and then wrestling. I actually wrestled in high school. So I think those were like the things that actually wrestling saved my life. I remember I was in 9th grade, and I was just running around being a knucklehead, and the coach saw me running around. He was like, yo, what you doing? To the point around mentorship. And he was like, you should come out for the team. You should come out for the team. And I was like, wrestling? Like, y'all in tights? Nah, that ain't for me. And then I went out. And, you know, I made varsity, you know, and I was actually pretty good, you know, and then it made me disciplined. You know, I had to get up and go running. had to get there on time, had to cut weight,
Had to make weight.
couldn't eat, had to make weight, no turkey on Thanksgiving. So yeah, it was a lot, you know, and our cutting weight, right? That was the thing. After Thanksgiving, you went in the day after.
Were you purging? Were you purging?
Nah, I never did it. Nah, I never did that. I just put on a plastic bag and went running. I don't know if folks know about that, but
that's right.
On that
old school.
Bag, old school. Put it under my sweats and just go out for a run and make weight. But so that was my dirt bike.
Okay, what about you, Will?
In what regards?
What when you were that age, when you were Mouse's age, but like, you know, Mouse wants to be in this dirt bike clique. What was your thing when you were that age?
Man, I had a scooter, man. And I used to be so mad at my pops and my moms because I remember slamming my scooter down one time. Like, how I'm I can't go fast. They got bikes. I got a scooter. You know what I'm saying? Can y'all buy me a bike? You know? So I used to be out there with the 1 foot going on the scooter.
You had the little push thing.
They had to push, boom, you know, on the scooter, you know, until I got a bike. But that's how I got around, you know, the bikes and the scooter.
Okay. How about you, Caleb?
It's pretty much the same. I had skateboards and bikes as a kid, you know, and when Rashid said the mongoose, I didn't have a mongoose, my cousin did, and I had a Robinson. That was like, I was so happy my mom bought me a Robinson. And I was like, oh my gosh. And that was like a performance bike. And that was like my thing. So as a kid, I would always ride bikes and skateboard and play football and basketball in the streets. And that was my thing. But there was one thing Rashid said in his statement that I want to come back to just real quick. He said that it's the systems that, as far as like with supporting, the youth for the things that they're into, and the systems are what demonize it and criminalize it. And it's so true. It's been that way for Black people since slavery. We would get in trouble for singing. They didn't want us to sing, right? So we couldn't sing. You can't play drums. You can't dance. That's criminalized. Then, oh, you can't play jazz because that's Black people music. That's criminalized. Every single thing. Hip hop criminalized. Low riding culture in LA criminalized. You can't have a low rider in the 80s. The police will pull you over, search your car, all of that. They're do the same thing with dirt bikes. So I think how we support them is that these things that we see our youth are into, we as the community have to come out and support them and say, no, it's not a criminalized thing. It's not a negative thing. Let's put it in a protective space so it doesn't hurt other people, because I understand somebody driving 100 miles an hour on a wheelie through a street is extremely dangerous. But in a protected environment, it wouldn't be. So it's like, but we would need our community, our people to support these things so the youth can have it. Is what the car club started doing in LA. They got to the point where police wouldn't allow you to low ride on the street if they blocked the cruising on Crenshaw and Whittier Boulevard and all that. So what happened was they started creating areas where the low riding clubs would get together, and they would rent out a space and they would do all that stuff there. And it was like they take a parking lot at the Coliseum and just it's full with all the low riding, and they would compete in that way because the police took it off the street. But the community came together and figured out how to do it. And I think we have to do the same thing with dirt bikes and anything that our young Black and brown people are into. We have to do it. They criminalized tagging. I understand you can't be riding on a doctor's building, but it wasn't always gang stuff. Some people are doing the most beautiful murals you'll ever see. And you're like, you did that with a spray can? Yeah. Oh my gosh, like you should be in an art school if you can do that. You know what I mean? So I think we have to start supporting these things that our youth are into and figure out how as a community we can support them, and through the community we can get the systems to begin to change. I think so.
Absolutely.
And helping Brittany build a pipeline too, you know, like you know, you know, all the things that we're talking about is what she's been forming and doing and working towards, but it's the resources that she needs to build the pipeline. So
exactly.
Yeah. What is it that you need, Brittany? What, like, if you had your wish list, what is your wish list?
Really the privilege, right? We've been a part of Open Society Institute. I was one of their fellows. So the biggest thing, I mean, I think people know this is money. right? We've identified 12 spaces already in Baltimore that can work as beginning spaces for a dirt bike space. We need people that's going to also work with us and politicians to make sure legislation changes. In the city of Baltimore, it is a misdemeanor for ownership of a dirt bike. So in order to get to a space, we need that the policy is also conducive to a space. And like what Caleb was saying too, we just need more people of our community to rally behind us. I think we've set the tone and set the bar with the new narrative around dirt bikes, of empowering your voice, of showing mentorship, of showing how the skills translate. But what we don't have enough of is people that just can hear, listen, and then lend a hand in their privilege to help us get those spaces and resources. Because all of like the public policy work, working with the police, working with the city, wanting to go to other cities, we've been doing. The hardest part has just been getting people behind us that can support the mission, the goals, and the value. And it's not about Brittany. It's about B360 is a model that shows we're not focusing on defunding the police. We're focusing on when you give the Black-led organizations doing leadership in Black communities, this is what the model can be. That instead of just having a dirt bike police task force, which is a proactive solution, we can have a reactive solution. We can have a reactive solution, which is B360. So our biggest thing is really just funding, but really the people behind us that's going to help us undo the systems, help us rethink the way that society works as a whole, and to make sure that the thing that I grew up watching and loving, which is dirt bikes, still has a place, but we're just shifting it from the streets into a safe space programming, and we don't want more people to go to jail just for dirt bikes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this: are you in a sorority?
How do you know that?
Oh, you are in a sorority. Okay. Are your sisters giving you some support?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I would say is that I know on behalf of Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival, we have so many angels out there that have helped us and supported us. And a lot of them are females and Black females as well. So, if I could give you a little bit of advice, I would just say you just got to network, heavy networking. Just a heavy network. I don't know if you have a staff or who's helping you, or if you're just by yourself. But, part of it is just getting out there and trying to get to places where you wouldn't normally go, and meeting people and just letting them know what it is you do. And just stick with it. Just hang in there, stick with it. How long have you been doing it again?
So we launched in 2017. We started doing the work in 2016, following the Freddie Gray uprising. Right. As soon as as soon as the city released the Dirt Bike Police Task Force, we wanted to do programming. So we had the same outcomes of a task force, but our method is through programming and mentorship to get people out of traffic, not fines and incarceration.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I totally understand what's happening. I lost 2 cousins in Baltimore. My cousin Marshall, and before him, his brother was murdered as well. So I'm very familiar with Baltimore. I got a lot of tears in Baltimore. I've still got a lot of family in Baltimore. I want to thank all you guys for joining us today on this Color Conversation. I really enjoyed the conversation. Caleb, thank you so much, and good luck with Charm City. When is it?
Thank you.
When is it premiere on HBO Max?
October 8th.
October 8th. Okay, excellent. Will, thank you, sir, for joining us. I enjoyed your performance, and I look forward to seeing you some other stuff. Rashid, as always, it's a pleasure seeing you, brother. And Brittany, you look lovely, and I hope to see you in Baltimore. And good luck with everything with B360 Baltimore. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
you. Guys
you.
take care.
All right, you too.
All right.